All right, officially welcome in, and look at all these pretty faces. We're excited to have this large group learning more about what the South Carolina American Revolution Sesquicentennial Commission is up to and the grant opportunities that we have. I'm going to share my screen, and then we're going to talk a little bit about these options. We'll do a demo today, and we'll take questions and answers at the end. But feel free, if you do have something that's pertinent to what we're on the screen, feel free to raise your hand and get in there with your questions. So we want to see if I can advance my screen here. Give me 1 second. And so your support team here with SC250, which is like what I like to call the South Carolina Sesquicentennial Commission. Of course, Molly Fortune, she's on the call today and will be speaking in just a moment. And many of you know Bill Davies, who is our vice chair and our County 250 liaison. We have a big commission that's also willing to help in all the communities, but those are the folks who are really going out and about and visiting with all the counties. So if everybody could mute for just a second to make sure that everybody's muted, and we take questions at the end. So why are we celebrating? I want to offer it up for Molly to say a few words, if you'd like, Molly, about why this is so important and what we're doing, what we're preaching to the choir today. But say hello to everybody and talk a little bit about why we're celebrating this wonderful anniversary. Molly, are you there? We may have muted her out. Let me see if I can get her on the screen here. So I want to make sure.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Oh,
hello.
Wow. With all this technology, I think we can do better. But welcome. It's so great to see a lot of faces with names that I've talked to. It's fabulous to be here. Why we celebrate? It's really important. And I'm actually talking in Camden about why it's important on Saturday, and I've really ruminated about this. You learn so much from your past that really focuses and helps you make your future. And I saw somewhere that you've got to have an understanding of where we came from and why we did the way we did to make sure that we're doing things well into the future. I'm always struck with how so much of what we're going on in today's world could really, my dad even said that to me this morning. He said, so what's so different now than it was in 1770 or 1773 or even 1781? I said, there's not a whole lot that's different, but I can tell you the beautiful part about it is that we can participate. We participate in our society and we make it better. So I'm thrilled that y'all have taken on that task of, making it better for everybody. Whether it is through signage, whether it's through publications, whether it's through a bike ride that goes by lots of different sites. It's just really important for us to celebrate where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. It's a feeling I have, and I've been trying hard to articulate that. So, Heather, you want to jump in with why you feel like it's important?
Well, I think we're really excited that we are talking about the anniversary because even as a South Carolinian, I didn't realize there were 400 skirmishes, battles, and bloodshed here in South Carolina. Than everyone other than New Jersey, we have the most activity during the American Revolution War, and that's not something we're necessarily taught. And I think reclaiming that and finding the pride in that is very exciting. So let's talk about what that means. We're going to celebrate, of course, with July 4th, 2026. We know that's when it's going to crescendo into the marketing pitch, especially the national level. And we definitely know there'll be fireworks. That's going to be amazing. So we are really looking at the Revolutionary era from 1770 to 1783. So that's 2020 to 2033. That takes you from the Boston Massacre and the end of the British government, and for all intents and purposes, in 1770 to the Treaty of Paris in 1783. So we really see it as a full era of events that we can celebrate. So how are we going to celebrate? Our focuses are education and cultural tourism. And these goals are helped with our 9 grants that we have. and let's talk about those grants. So who can apply? Pretty much everybody is eligible as long as you are in South Carolina. That is a Chamber of Commerce, a nonprofit. Of course, county governments and municipalities are eligible. Tribes, regional tourism commissions. Only time that individuals can apply would be for our research and publication grants. And that's research and publication grants are also the only time you don't have to physically be in South Carolina. Otherwise, your headquarters needs to be in South Carolina. And if you have any questions about that or think that you might still fit but it's not specifically listed, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll be glad to talk about that. And types of grants. So we have 9 grant programs. The first one, several of y'all are already familiar with. This is our County 250 organizing grants. These are restricted to the folks who are the county 250 committees. You have to be officially have a resolution from your county council and have submitted that and your committee list to SC250 to be official. You also, it could be the fiscal agent on their behalf, and we are encouraging counties or municipalities to take that role, but that fiscal agent, which we'll talk about later, could be other entities. So if everybody makes sure that they're muted, I still hear a few voices in the background. I'll be glad to take questions at the end. So this one, again, only for the official County 250 committee. It's $3,000. It's not competitive. We are saying every county gets one of these, but we do have to have an application completed with deliverables and a timeline before we can issue that grant. There is also on this one a approved project list. We are really pushing for strategic plans because we feel like you've got to have a good foundation of knowing what you do specific to your county. We think it's so important that each county is looking at what happened in their community and acting on those items. So we are pushing a strategic plan, but there's a whole list of other generic topics, from a survey of your Revolutionary Era people, places, and stories, historic research, designing a Revolutionary Era trail, a whole bunch of things that we are encouraging, and you can also select other and describe that approved project, or describe that project that you want to take on with that $3,000. So think about what is your primary goal and how would you spend money to achieve that goal. All right, our next one is our local museum style panel grant, and we did a temporary one with this is our test grant, I should say, with the folks at the Mars Center, and they have an amazing one designed. It has a map with all the locations in the center and some wonderful pull-out stories about people specifically for their community. So again, these get down to the local American Revolution stories, which we really appreciate. And one of the things we hope you consider if you're a museum on today is think about where there's foot traffic that you normally wouldn't get. So maybe the visitor center or the Chamber of Commerce or Town Hall is where you want to put this panel, and you can have it then point back to your museum. You can also add manipulables and other items. It could be a video screen. It doesn't have to be just a printed text. You can be really creative with this, and we're looking forward to hearing some of your ideas on what you'd like to do with a local museum style panel grant. The local activities grant, this is where I see a lot of the County 250's applying for funds for events or marketing. This is actually one of our test ones for this grant, was a media campaign for the Liberty Trail portal up in Cherokee. So this is one where you could do marketing, you could do an event, you could be doing all these local activities kind of fall under this. It could be an art project. It really is wide open. We will, if you have questions or concerns about does this fit, make sure you reach out to me. I'll be glad to review that with you. This is one that requires a match. So 80% will be paid by SC250 and 20% will be paid by the grantee. And it's an $8,000 grant, and it is competitive. The next one, this is another one that is only available to the County 250 committees. This is a county asset assessment and historic tourism plan. So this is where you would hire a consultant, And we have said in the paperwork for this grant, you can choose the South Carolina Battleground Preservation Trust, who is our partner listed in our statute, because they're so specifically set up to do this. But you can also choose someone else as long as they hit the high standards of being able to do the research, historic research, and being able to also do the tourism. Because this is a twofold. This is what assets do I have in my county, and how can we best leverage those for tourism and marketing and letting people know about these events and these places and these people. And this one is one that is a 50-50 match. So this is an example where you might go to your ATAX for your county and get $10,000 to match this $10,000, and that gives you this phase 1 and phase 2 of this plan, asset assessment and historic tourism. The next one is the research grant. This is one where individuals may apply. You also may not necessarily live in South Carolina. But you have to be pertaining to South Carolina during the American Revolution. So you do have to have that caveat, but this is one where it's a little more lenient. You see Lord Rowden there. One of the gentlemen that is working our project for SC250 is researching Lord Rowden's wartime papers, specifically in the Southern campaigns. And so that's one that we did a test with this last fiscal year. This could be up to $20,000 and is competitive. Publication grants, this could be a book, this could be a battlefield guide, so it's really kind of what could be a digital publication. So again, this is one where individuals may apply. You don't necessarily have to be within South Carolina, but you do have to specifically be talking about South Carolina and the American Revolution. And this is up to $30,000 grant. Education grants. So the one that we did this past fiscal year was one we did with the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission, and they are going to be working on a teacher webinar specifically about African Americans who fought during and participated in the American Revolution, both free and enslaved. So that's going to be a really exciting piece. So this is one of our primary goals, the education grants. Our primary goals as a commission is education. So we'd love to see some great applications in this one as well. So signage and marker grants, this could be everything from new interpretive signs to tourism-directed signs. So maybe it's just signage to how to get to the battlefield or the house that could be eligible. Historic markers and marking the 18th century roads also eligible for this. So this is up to $10,000 and it is competitive. And then lastly, this is going to be the big one, the bulk of the money. And we did receive over $7 million from the state legislature for this fiscal year. The bulk of that is to go to these sites. We want, as the commission wants to leave a legacy, leave these historic sites that were not visitable before now, and get ready for the 2026 when all the marketing's coming from the national level. So we want to try to find these sites that need to be marked and need to have safe pull-offs. And this takes a lot to get done, but this is probably the most important part. You could apply for a planning grant under this. You could do an acquisition, development, or even renovation. One of the grants that we did this past fiscal year was for the location there at on Sullivan's Island there at Breach Inlet. So that park there is needed some renovation. And this is an upgrading of some of their items there, so that's something that's going to continue to happen. How many times have people passed that corner and not realized really the importance of that breach inlet and what it played in the original attack on Charleston and beating back the British. So this one is an 80-20 match required. This does not necessarily have a limit because we know it could be very diverse. The planning may be a $20,000 archaeological study for the site to verify that it's the right site. It could be a $200,000 request for purchasing the property. So it really is based on the merit. So as much detail as you can give us on your application, better, as we look at this, because we will be making some decisions based on those items that you include on your application. So deadlines. So the County 250 organizing grants, this is non-competitive. So please submit whenever your County 250 group is ready. Please submit anytime before May 9th. And as soon as we have dotted I's and crossed T's on the paperwork, then we can go ahead and get that out to you. All other grants are the competitive grants, quarterly review while funds last. So we're going to do this 4 times a year. We'll take a look at what's submitted. The first deadline is coming up on September 16th. And don't worry if you can't make that. We have another one on November the 9th. But again, it's while funds last, particularly when it comes to the sites. They may eat into the amount of money that we have. But those are the 4 deadlines that we have for this year. They will all be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure that gives me a chance to close everything out before the end of business those days. Now, how do we distribute the funds? For the County 250 organizing grants, again, we're encouraging the county or municipality to be the fiscal agent, and that means 100% can be sent to you once the grant agreement is signed. It'll go through finance and then be sent out to the county or the municipality. All other fiscal agents will have 80% up front, and then 20% will be sent when the final paperwork is completed with receipts. The all other competitive grants, each one, no matter who your fiscal agent is, it will be 80% up front and 20% upon final paperwork with receipts. Now, we know that some of these county groups do not have a lot of cash flow. If not having this last 20% would keep you from going forward with your projects, we can have a conversation about what paperwork we might be able to receive, maybe a quote or something like that, where we could document it and then go ahead and send you that 20%. That is on a case-by-case basis that we would review that. And the best practice is to negotiate your contracts accordingly so that they know that you won't have that last 20% until you get the paperwork in. So now we get to talk about spending the people's money. So it is a challenge. Sadly, there have been some naughty people out there who have done some things, who've made a lot of paperwork when you're spending the state's money and the people's money, and as it should be hard, because like I said, it is their money. That means some documentation and paperwork. So the first thing is fiscal agent responsibilities. So I know a lot of y'all have conversations with your counties or other nonprofits who will be your fiscal agent, and these are some things they need to make sure that you let them know. They will have to provide fiscal agent documentation, and that includes W-9, a copy of the budget for this year, a fiscal statement for last year. If it's a nonprofit, there's additional things that you'll have to include. You also have to provide, if you are approved for a grant, you will need a state vendor number, and ACH direct deposit is always best with that. The fiscal agent will be officially signing the grant agreement, because that is who will be receiving the funds. So they will have to be able to sign into Web Grants Online and do that official signing of the fiscal agent responsibilities. However, this does not mean that they have to complete the application. I'm going to show you as we do a demo how you can add additional applicants, and you can do all the work for them. You just need them to come in and sign, provide those documents so that you can upload those on your application. And then you will follow local procurement policy. If your organization does not have procurement policy, we do have a link to our state procurement and some basics on state procurement that we would recommend you follow. But again, grants do not fall under state procurement, but you do need to follow your local procurement policy, and the fiscal agent will assure that you're doing that. Manage receipts. You'll have to provide for the final report. You'll have to have all your receipts for what you spent your money on. And just knock on wood, 9 times out of 10, you would not have to worry about this, but you do have to agree that if for any reason the auditors wanted to do an audit of funds randomly selected, that you would be available for that. So that is what your fiscal agent would be responsible for. All right, so register, it's demo time. The first thing is to register for Discover SC's web grants. If you haven't already done so, we're going to demo that really quickly. And then we're going to talk about the 6 segments of the grant that are part of the program, the Discover SC Web Grants program. This is a South Carolina PRT program. And
no, you coming?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, does somebody have a question? Am I hearing a question? Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead with our demo then. So let me share my screen here, switch over to my web browser. Okay. All right, everybody, there we go. So the first thing I want to show you is this is where you register. And okay. So this is where you click. Sorry, it keeps giving me some pop-ups here. When you click this, you fill out the information as you would, but here's where an important part. Make sure it's when it says program area of interest that you are selecting the South Carolina American Revolution Sesquicentennial Commission. These other items are for PRT. You can actually go to their website. There may be some other grants that you want to apply for that you could apply for through this system. But this is what you want to select when you're registering. That gives me a signal, and I know to go in and make sure that you don't have a duplication in the system. So that's why it's kind of important to select SC250 here. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, if you are not one of these, if you don't know your EIN number, if you don't have one, if you're representing the County 250 group, then make sure you select individual, and that way you bypass the EIN number. The fiscal agent will have to have that EIN number to get the W-9, to get the state vendor number eventually, but when you're registering, if you don't have it up front, make sure you choose individual, even though this name right here is actually the name of the organization. So if I chose city government, it is going to require the EIN number. So just keep that in mind. So that is registering. Any questions so far? Okay, excellent. So I'm going to sign in. Let's see if it'll let me. Oh, I have to remember my password. Oh my goodness. I apologize. It was all morning. It's been letting me, it's been saving my password. Okay. Let's try this again. If you ever can't find how to get into SCPRT grants, I recommend everybody bookmark it. But you can also go to our website, and here there's so much information under SCPRT grants here. And you see all that information, the basics on each of these grants listed, and you can click on any of these, learn more, and apply. And then at the bottom, after all the description and the information, this is where you get your fiscal agent documents. You can look at that. And down at the very bottom, you can register, and that should bring this up. And now, good. Okay. So you'll have a dashboard once you get into the system, and it'll show you any approaching deadlines. There will be some status updates that you'll have to complete, and documents that you'll have to sign before we send out the money. You can also look at the view overdue approaching deadlines. So I have a status report that one of my tester status reports that I need to complete. Then when you go to apply, you're going to go to funding opportunities. And when you get in funding opportunities, you're going to, all of these, you can click on any of these and look at their information, just like on the website. It's also documented here. And I'm going to go look at this one. This is the County Asset Assessment and Historic Tourism Plan. Now you see I've already started some. They're listed here, so I can come back and forth. Big point though, I do want to let y'all know it does not auto-save. So make sure when you are applying, you are saving as you go. You can have multiple people able to sign in and work on the document. We encourage you not to do it at the same time. And it's again of the save, the way it doesn't auto-save. So I'm going to look at this Baxley County Asset Assessment and Tourism Plan. So I made up my county, named after our chairman, and I'm going to go edit my application. And these are the components that we have to complete. We need to have a check mark on all of these before I can submit my application. So let's look at each one of these. The first one is general information, and I'm going to edit my form. So I've given it a title, and the primary contact is Heather Hawkins Tester, that's my external user. Now you'll see I am associated with multiple entities. So you want to make sure that the applicant is listed as the fiscal agent. So you might be associated with both the County 250 organization and the fiscal agent. So you want to make sure that the organization that is applying is the fiscal agent. So in this case, I'm going to choose my fake county, Baxley County. This is also where I do additional applications. So I added this applicant. This is how you could have the finance director added for the county, because you're going to actually fill out all the paperwork. So you could be listed either place, and that way you have access to that application. And that person does have to be associated with your organization in the system to show up so that you can add them there. And if you need any help with that, I can certainly do that. Now let's look at our cover sheet. And I'm going to edit my form. There are a couple questions at the top. Are you located in South Carolina? You can say no to this, but know that it will, if not in South Carolina, are you applying for a research or publication grant? That's the only way you can say no here. Otherwise, it's going to block you from applying. Those are projects specifically pertaining to the American Revolution in South Carolina, yes. So pretty simple. Your application type. Now, who's going to be managing your funds? So in this case, I'm putting applicant because the applicant is the fiscal agent, which is the county in this instance. So there is on here another fiscal agent that you could choose, or an individual. But in this case, because I'm putting the applicant as the county, as the fiscal agent, the applicant is managing the funds. However, who's going to do the work? The project director, I put John Lawrence in here, of course. So he's going to actually do all the work. So we put him here. This is important because it will show up on your grant agreement. And I encourage, if you are County 250, this needs to be somebody on your County 250 committee, and then your fiscal agent can be your county or your nonprofit, your museum, or whoever's going to do that. So this is the person who's signing off and doing the work. Then of course, Alexander Hamilton has to be our fiscal officer and at the county, so that's his information there. And then this question says, are one of these two people listed here able to say yes or no to the funding or making a decision on spending money? And this might be where, okay, the fiscal officer is really going to be the county finance director, but the county administrator wants to sign off on any time they're spending money. So then you would say no here, and you would list the county administrator or the executive director of the museum if they're not listed here. But if one of the people who's able to say yes, you can spend the money, then if they're listed here, then you say yes, authorizing officer is the same as above, and save the form. So I've completed that one, so I'm going to mark that one as complete. Our next one, this is the biggie. This is our narrative. And I do want to show you a little trick with the narrative. If you go to funding opportunities, let's see if it'll let me show another screen. Yep. Okay, I'm going to look at this information. This again reiterates all the requirements and how to apply. And down at the bottom, under the funding opportunities, you can see there's some things attached. And on each one of these, there is a version application. And this paper version of the application, you cannot submit your application that way, but you can use that to help you go through your go through and look at what the narrative is going to say. So if everybody can make sure they're muted, we keep having some conversations. So I'll get to questions in just a minute. All right, let me go back to my other screen here. Yep. So again, we're under the narrative. I'm going to edit my form. This one is very important. This is your project summary. This will show up on your grant agreement. This is your elevator speech. It needs to talk about the overall goal or purpose, and it talks about the Revolutionary Era in South Carolina. Does somebody have a question? Right. I've got somebody who's, I don't know, Molly, if you could look at who's not muted, so and see if we can get muted.
I'm trying to find who, yeah, I'm trying to find that. So if everyone can just be sure that you're muted, and we don't think you are and you're talking, but if you wouldn't mind.
All right, let's see. So this again is your elevator speech. You have your county data. And this is where you would choose your county that you're located within. I don't have a backslash because it's not a real county, so I picked Barnwell. It auto chooses this. So if I change it to Abbeville, it auto chooses tier 2 here. And let me see if I can get this muted. I'm so sorry, y'all. Let's see if I can look at my participants on my other screen.
I just muted everybody.
Okay, very good. Okay, so tier 2 is what auto-populated. This is just one of the things that we'll be looking at when it comes to the review, because these are competitive grants. We will take a look at the county data. This is based on a list we have of battles and skirmishes. So how many assets do we know already that you have in your community? And we have 4 tiers, with Charleston at 98 and other counties with 1 that are listed on this list. So we have 4 tiers divided up. So this is just, there are a few things there, but not as many as Charleston. When I hit save, it gave me this number. This is our tax job credit ranking with the Department of Revenue. This is based on economic development. So Abbeville may need a little more help with economic development, and we believe that cultural tourism is an economic development tool. So with that, we want to make sure that we are helping those counties, and 4 is actually one that needs a lot of help, more help than others. So Charleston may be a 1 on that one, but Abbeville's a 4. So those are just components that we will be reviewing as the panels do their reviews on these grants. And have you received prior funding? We want to make sure we're spreading the love. So if yes, and then put down how much. This is just so it's all on one piece of paper when they go to do the review. All right, and I'm going to save my form, and it actually, it changed because Abbeville's a 3 instead of a 4. Okay, so the next section is your project detail. And as you look at the project detail, and please note every time you save, it does take you to the top. So you may want to save section by section or not have to save all the time, but do remember it does not auto-save. So I've chosen my grant here, and I've chosen that it's a county asset assessment and historic preservation grant. That's what I'm looking to do. And when I chose that, it gave me points to consider when filling this out. So if I am actually doing a museum grant, these are some topics you might want to include in your execution of plan. Note that this is 1,000 characters, not words, characters, but most of the other panels are only 500. So they don't need to have to be really lengthy, but this is your opportunity to talk about more of your process and what steps you'll be taking to reach your goal. So, and it took it away. So let's see, we're going to, okay. And I'm just going to put test in here so that we can keep moving. Scholars and peer review. So how will scholars be? We want to make sure everything is accurate. We don't want this to get in the way of telling a good story in tourism, but we do want everything to be accurate. So scholar and peer review, how will that be a part of your plan? And promotion, if it's an event, this is easy, but this may be where this is an example that actually in my previous job, I know that in Newberry, and Molly, you could probably speak to this. At one point, you had kind of a super group that was doing marketing together. So you had county PRT, city PRT. You can get a group together that says, let's market all the same way. Let's be on brand for our county and make sure that we are executing the plan that this person says, the tourism plan that comes out of this report. Then let's all do this let's promote those items together. So that's one way to talk about promotion. And then there's the planning and timetable. Note that there is not a save form. This is a little different. What I like to do is like fill out all the blanks and then I'll come back and do the planning and timetable. The last section is about impact. And note that each section has points associated with it when they go to do the reviews. So impact expected outcome. This is also extremely important. This will also be on your grant agreement. So make sure you're talking about something that is a deliverable that will be in your hand. This could be a report from in this case, it's definitely going to be a report written by the consultant who's doing this asset assessment and tourism plan. But it could be a report on an event that you had with the number of people who attended and a copy of your program. It could be a marketing report where you spent money on Facebook and you did the report of how many reaches you had with that. So there has to be something that is tangible that at the end of the day, what are you going to spend money on that will reach your goal is how we're going to come up with our budget. And these are those items that you're spending money on that'll give you that deliverable at the end of the day. So again, this will show up on your contract. So make sure that this lists those deliverables and the measurement of success. Now, when we talk about inclusion, this is something that's very important to SC250, and we want to make sure that we are talking about including African Americans, Native Americans, women and children, the Tories of our community. So many of our families probably fit that category. So remembering that each county has across even the rural areas, and particularly most of the rural areas where the action's happening, so making sure that's included. And this is where you get to tell that you are dedicated to this. If you've got specifics, like you're going to tell your county consultant that this is something that we don't know as much about and we need some extra research in this area. And that could be part of your contract, and that could be listed there under inclusion for this one. Any news sites, of course, will be open to the public. You have to talk about how this will be accessible to the public. Engagement, are there any ways that you're going to make sure that these assets will be accessible to the public and getting the word out about them? And then this is where is really the longevity. So a lot of times I've seen people try to fill out impact up here where you're talking about what you hope to achieve in generic terms. I would say make sure that your expected outcome up here is really specific about the deliverables, and where you're talking about the impact, the longevity of what you are doing and how it can affect your community into the future. This is where you want to talk about that. Partnerships, it's always great to show partnerships, and you get bonus points actually on your review when you include extra collaboration. Again, it's not required, but it is part of your review. So I've filled out all those sections. I do want to go back down and show you adding the timetable. So now that I've saved, I go back down to my planning and timetable and add a row. And you can add a benchmark, submit final report to SC250 will be your final benchmark. And you're going to do final report. And you're going to complete that by May 15th, I think is my deadline. There you go. And I'll save the row. it takes you back to the top. I apologize. I wish it didn't do that, but every time you save, it's going to take you back to the top. You scroll back down, and it's now, you see that this has now been added as one of your benchmarks. So you can choose any, a lot of times there's the same buttons listed twice. You can choose either one of these. And if I hit mark as complete, that's for the entire page. So now we have 3 check marks. The next section is assurances and certifications. And these are basically, you agree to have a grant meeting with me once you get your funding. You're not going to have was not completed prior to the grant. You are going to allow SC250 to have a royalty-free right to any materials. There's some things in there you want to review. And then if I edit my form, which will take me back to the top, but when you say yes here, that is basically like signing these assurances. So our authorizing officer is going to be Crispus Addis, our hero from the Boston Massacre. So he's going to sign this on behalf of the Bexley County 250. He's chairman. But because this county is the fiscal agent, it's always good to make sure that that the county highest chief elected officer. So our county council chairman in Bexley County is Aaron Burr, and he signed it as well. He put his name on here saying that he agrees to these items, and we save our form. Okay. So again, you can be completing this on their behalf. You just need to make sure that they are okay with you doing that. And that once you put that yes, that is like a signature on this application. Support materials. So this is where the fiscal agent would come into play. And I just attached some random things here. You do have to, when you click on an item, you do have to fill in the description. It is required. It's one of those starred and it's in red. So just remember that. And then once you upload the items, since this is the county, they only have to fill out these 3 items. A copy of the fiscal agent's W-9, adopted budget for this current fiscal year, and the operating financial statement for most recent fiscal year. So those are the only 3 fiscal agent attachments I need for a county, or anything that's other than a nonprofit. If it is a nonprofit, a 501c3 or 501c6, you need the letter from stating that. You need the Secretary of State registration letter, list of board members, and your mission statement also needs to be attached. The other thing that is required, and you see some of these are listed here, and this is for county organizing grants, but also for these asset assessment grants. Because only County 250 groups can officially be the applicant, or their fiscal agent can be their applicant, you do need to upload your documentation of resolution from your county and your groups, your committees contact spreadsheet. So I didn't do it here, but I should have. So this would be a red flag when I was going through and reviewing the application. Then I would renegotiate it back and say I need these 2 items attached before we can officially pass it through the review section. So those are support materials. You can attach other things to this. If you already have an agreement with the South Carolina Battleground Preservation Trust to do this work, and it's contingent on getting this funding, then you can attach that quote that they've sent you under these other additional support documentation. You add a new attachment here. And then the final section is the budget. So the budget is going to be all this consultant fee in this example. But let's talk about each one of these sections. There's personnel breakdown. Now, personnel would be someone who works for the museum or the county that would be overseeing something. You can do up to 10% for administrative in your budget. We don't encourage a lot of that, but you can. And this is where you would add a row here if that is personnel. If you are hiring a contractor, if you're hiring a consultant, they need to be under contractual breakdown. So that is the difference between those 2 things. Other categories include supplies and materials, equipment, and again, we encourage rental as opposed to purchasing equipment. And then acquisition, if you're going to buy land, I would not expect that under this grant that we're applying for right now, but all the budgets look the same. So there is a category there, you just leave it blank. And other expenses, this could be when you're doing a strategic plan, you're going to buy lunch. So you're going to include that under other expenses. Now, we mentioned earlier that this does require a match. This is a county asset assessment and tourism plan grant, so it is a 50-50 match. So I had to document here that the county economic development department is going to pay that other $10,000. So where is it? And you can, it can be multiple locations. You can add a row and you can say that the chamber is going to kick in 5,000 and the business alliance is going to kick in the other 5. And then what type of match. You can list in kind for documentation. However, for your actual match, it needs to be cash, and I don't mean like cash it, but it has to be actual funds, or it could be a donation from a third party as well. So I'm going to see if I can go back, if they'll let me do that. Yeah. All right, and you'll see at the bottom that we are asking $10,000 from SC250. You're matching 10,000, and that gives you a total of 20,000. So your percentage of match is 50%. So as I review these applications, I'm going to be looking for that in your budget. Please note that I understand your contract with this historical consultant and tourism consultant is going to probably be a contract for $20,000. But these sections at the top have to only relate to what you are asking of a 250. So I only put $10,000 here. And you can edit these, but I only put $10,000 there, even though the total contract may be 20, because I'm asking SC250 to give me 10, which is the total, the cap at this point on this grant. All right, so I'm going to mark that as complete. Oh, and I forgot to mark these others as complete. So as you finish each section, you have to mark them as complete, and you'll note that once I have all of these checked, it now turns to green up here. So don't panic if you see red up here. Just know that you have to fill everything out. You are saying it is complete. So it's not checking to see if it's complete. You are saying it is complete. This is just your checklist. But once these are checked, you now see submit application. So I'll submit it. Now, once I hit this button here, I cannot edit this grant without asking me to renegotiate it with you. So if you are the County 250 person filling out all the verbiage, but you're waiting on your finance person to upload all your attachments, do not hit submit until they have everybody who's going to touch the grant is done. And then you will hit submit there and you will be ready to go. I'm not going to hit it, so I can still use this one as an editing one. So all right, I have other examples I can use. The last thing I wanted to show you is now that I have submitted a grant, I want to apply for a secondary grant. And I'm going to submit a museum panel grant. So instead of hitting start new application, I'm going to copy existing applications. So once you get one in the system, when you hit copy existing application, that allows a lot of that all those financial documents and everything to copy over to your new grant. I will let you know that the County 250 organizing grants, the first cover sheet page does not copy. You will have to complete that again. I apologize. But once you get into the competitive grants, those should everything should clone over, and then just make sure that you are looking at every page, including, in fact, including updating the title of your grant to make sure you're updating each section if you are copying an existing application. Okay, I know that is a lot, and it's going to be overwhelming. I'm so sorry, but know that I am here to help. So I know Brian's on here from Darlington. Hi, Brian. And he said, okay, this is too much. And I said, I'm going to come visit you. So because he'd done his due diligence and gathered all the materials, knew what he wanted to spend his money on, what those deliverables were going to be, we did it in about 45 minutes, I think, in his office. So I don't mind getting on a WebEx with y'all individually and helping you with that. And just I'll walk you through step by step, make me an additional applicant, and I can help you upload things. And I don't mind doing that because I know it is a lot for those who may not have filled out grant applications before. But the keys are that we are not we're able to clone, and that's really important. And that's one of my pro tips is just once you get all this stuff in there, you can now copy it and go forth. So think about that. And let me see. So yeah, check our website. There is so much information under SC250 grants. There's so much under information under Get Involved. Please check all those out. Lots of financial information and lots of information about the different types of grants. And then just stay in touch. Make sure that as you apply for the Web Grants program, you might want to add some of these things to your contacts because they will be sending you things directly. And this is my email. Make sure you add me to your contacts so it goes in the right place. It often goes in the trash, junk otherwise. And then give us some feedback. We are just starting out with these grants, so we need some feedback from you guys, and we'll be glad to help you with anything that you need. So that is all I have. I know we're almost out of time, but do we have any last minute questions? I mean, you might have to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and I can unmute you, I think, on my end.
Trish had a question in the chat. Do any of the applications allow for multiple counties? Thinking about historic signs along a statewide trail. That's a really good question.
We had never considered that to this point, but that is an excellent idea. We wanted to make sure every county had their own County 250 group so that no county got overwhelmed by their neighbor. We want to make sure you have representation, but we love the idea of collaboration. I would think that you would need to still have whoever the fiscal agent is going to be, pick a county that, whoever that fiscal agent would be for that whole group. They would still be the applicant, and then you could list each of the contacts of the different counties as additional applicants on your application, and that way you could all get in there and collaborate on those if you wanted to. Does that make sense? So
absolutely. And you know what, you can always call us. And Trish also wrote back, absolutely, about women. Yes, 100%. Throw it at us.
Yes. We love it. We love where, we've got some really amazing stories that I've learned, and there are lots more to uncover. So,
sorry, I probably wasn't clear in that question. It looked like on the form, one of the factors used in judging was how many skirmishes took place in a county, but I don't know how many skirmishes took place where these women did their thing, but that seems unrelated to the number of skirmishes. And I wonder, is there a way to decouple?
That's an excellent question. We had to pick some kind of weight criteria. So we agreed, and we believe that the Revolutionary era includes more than just battlefields. I'm not necessarily a military historian, but I get really excited about stories. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on the places and the battlefields, but also the people and the ideas. But I didn't have a good, easy way to do that, to measure that. So if you guys have a way to do that, that's fantastic. I use the list. There's a great website, Carolina, I believe it's not spelled like Carolina, it's Carolina. And it has a listing, also Parker's Guide. That's how we came up with how many events, took place in each county. So we used it based on that list of battlefields, but I'm open to suggestions on ways that we can better make that list include a lot of other things.
Thanks.
And again, that's only one thing that they'll look at. That is just, there was some counties may need more assistance because they had 98 events already happen in their county. So, other questions?
Yeah, just so y'all know, especially Trish, for me, I'm not a military historian either. I was joking with Charles on the phone yesterday that I had to remind him that I think of a flank as something that you grill and you put in a burrito. So we all know that there's lots of different ways to look at things, and that's the beauty of the
Absolutely.
group, is that we look at it on different levels.
Yeah. And I do apologize about the sound today. We're going to continue to get better at these webinars, I promise.
You know, Robin, we've been saying that it really is a commemoration. There's the celebration with the fireworks on July 4th for the 250th, but overall, it's a commemoration of every single aspect that we can get to talk about the Rev War in South Carolina from, you know, our indigenous, our women, our children, those underrepresented groups, to commemorate them, because it took every single one of them to make the fabric of South Carolina that it is today. So we have been guilty of saying celebration and commemoration.
Yeah.
I would probably look at it as commemoration on the 4th and celebration on the 4th and commemoration overall.
And well said. I am probably notorious for using celebration, but we had a chance to see the Treaty of DeWitt's Corner here. It's in the building that I'm sitting in, and it has the marks made by the Native American tribal leaders. I mean, to be like standing over that, that's not a celebration. That is a commemoration of what happened, you know, and them giving up their land, you know, east of the mountains on that, and as part of that, and it's part of the Revolutionary era. So absolutely well said. I will try to do better about my verbiage. It is important. Words are important. So thank you for that. Anybody else? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Tasha from Cherokee County, representing
Hi.
Cherokee County Historical and Preservation Societies aspect
Yay,
in the
Chaps.
250. Yay! Go Chaps! So I may have missed this, but will we be allowed a copy of this workshop? Will you be sending that out?
Absolutely. So if everything recorded correctly, I will
Yeah.
be uploading this to YouTube, and we'll have a link on our webinar page. Everybody who was registered, I will get a copy, a link to that once it's up. I'm hoping by Monday, so I should have that available for you guys. And again, there's lots of information on our website about all the grants. There's step-by-steps on applying on our website. There's lots of materials already there if you want to check those out.
Wonderful. Also, could we have a link to Carolina?
Yes, I'll be glad to send that. Yeah. It's sometimes it doesn't it blocks the site's blocked for some reason here. They're very stringent on what I can look at archives, but so you may have some problems with that. But it is a great resource, and I would say between that and Parker's Guide, those are your two best resources for your counties to start with, and then you get deeper in and find the other things.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was going to say, I've raised my hand. I don't know if it's my turn or not. We're going for it. My name is Conley Ian Ragley, and I am the regent of the Columbia chapter of the DAR. We're South Carolina's oldest chapter. Just celebrated our 129th anniversary back in May, and we have a coalition of chapters that are looking to do some work in the Columbia area, especially kind of greater downtown. There's about 5 chapters in the area. And I know that the national DAR has some markings and some markers that they do. And so there's nothing that would prohibit us for using these funds to purchase one of those markers that would be issued by NSDAR. Is there anything that would prohibit us for doing that?
Great question. We need to get together because we need to work on Richlands County 250, so we'll be in touch. Okay. But I don't see a reason why you couldn't apply for a grant. Again, it's a competitive, so I don't know what would be approved, but yeah, I don't see any reason you could not apply. I do want to be really clear. I'm glad you brought up markers. I meant to say this earlier. We do not run the state marker program. We do not run Liberty Live. We are partners with the South Carolina Liberty Live, the Liberty Trail. We are partners with the South Carolina Battleground Preservation Trust, that is the partner with the American Battlefield Trust for the Liberty Trail, which is amazing and awesome, and we're very excited about it, but we cannot guarantee that any site and that the markers would get paid for through that program. We can help with paying for things that are in that program, but we don't guarantee what gets selected for the Liberty Trail. We don't guarantee what gets selected for a state marker. That is with SHPO, our State Historic Preservation Office runs the marker, and the National Register is also through SHPO. They're also in this building. They're downstairs, but you could work in collaboration with them. They don't pay for anything, so just like your program, you could apply to get funds to pay for that marker as if you're using their program, but I can't guarantee that you would be listed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I mean, we've already, NSDAR started marking, doing these 250 markers probably 18 months ago. And so we've had one in Donald, South Carolina, that has marked a graveyard, I think that had maybe like 18 or so patriots, and also some persons of color that were also involved in the cause. So that was marked probably back in the spring, probably in early May. And so I know that there's a couple of others that are looking at doing these types of markers, and I know other states are doing them as well. We've already kind of selected our kind of Columbia Coalition, as we're calling it, and we're starting to kind of do some of the research because everybody's got there's some things we're just trying to match it up and figure out how we can get the biggest bang and impact for our buck, and making sure that we are taking into account all of the patriots that may be in this particular graveyard. So we're doing some of the legwork to try to make a strong application. I was just curious just to make sure there's no prohibition of saying, hey, we're not going to pay for another organization or nonprofit to provide, or to contract for the signage.
I don't see anything. Molly, do you have? Yeah, I don't see any reason that you would not be eligible. I think that we want to make sure these places get marked. We want to make sure they're done with the appropriate materials. So you know who you're going to use. You may want to look, talk to SHPO about who they recommend. I know there's at least a 6-month backlog right now that it's really taken a while to get those markers made, and they're not cheap. And so, we as a commission do have our own marker program that we're going to be working on. Some of the money will get funneled to that, so there won't be a huge amount of money for markers, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't apply.
Yeah, and I think that as a DA member up here in the Jasper chapter, you just want to make sure there's not duplication of efforts.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking, because like I said, we do have 5 chapters in the greater area, and we know Nell well, and Jerry Fort up there in Jasper, and so we've got our fall meeting in about 2 weeks, and so we've been kind of kicking around the idea, especially for the group in Columbia, how can we put forth like one project that everybody's working on and not all,
Well, let me know how we can help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and love to get together and seriously talk about Richland County. So we need some help collaborating. Anybody else? Well, I just want to mention that if you are part of a County 250 that's just getting organized, if you are already organized, this may not be the perfect fit for you, but if you're just getting organized, or you're to the point like, what's next? I need to grow a little bit more. I need to figure out how to apply specifically for my County 250 and my County Asset Assessment, which are the 2 grants that are specific to the County 250 groups. There is another webinar next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And if you're not already registered, you can go to that same website where you registered for this one and register for that one, or just shoot me an email at hhawkins@southcarolina250.com to make sure you're on the list for that if you're interested. But if you're already part of an established group with your resolution and your full committee, I'm going to cover a lot of the same ground, but you're welcome to sit in as well. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. I know it was a lot to go through the full application, but I wanted you to see the system. It's a lot of steps, but once you get it in there, you can clone it, and we hope that we have lots of wonderful applications getting done this education and cultural tourism goals that are really important to the 250th, and you guys are doing all the hard work. So Thank you, everybody. Just give yourselves a round of applause for doing the real work on the ground.
Leanne was here. Yay! Hey, Leanne. Leanne's doing awesome stuff up in Cherokee too with the Rev War Discovery Center. If you haven't heard about it, go and look at that. That's awesome. Cherokee County is doing some amazing stuff. So
y'all have some great assets, and we were up there for a commission meeting not long ago and got to tour Fort Thickety, and then coming up soon we're going to Lawrence, so I know our Lawrence folks are on here too, so we're looking forward to they are ahead of the game. They've been doing a great job organizing in Lawrence, and they have a new Rev War trail that they're working on, and we're excited for them, and let's be cheerleaders for each other, because there's some great stuff going on.
One, Heather and I are here for y'all at any point in time. Please know that we're here. So just call us. Don't ever hesitate. And two, if you want to go and look at what other counties are doing and you want to go to one of their meetings, just let us know and we'll go with you and we'll introduce you. So we're better together.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Have a fabulous day, and feel free to email me or contact me if you want to do a one-on-one WebEx to do about your application specifically. Okay? Bye, guys. Have a great day.